Today we are starting lesson 5-8, ratio reasoning, converting customary units. So these are the units of measurement we use here in the US. So let's flip to page 316 if you haven't. Make sure you're following along in your book. Our essential question today is, how can you use ratios to convert customary units of measure? So I would make sure if we have any units of measure that you don't know, that you are putting them in your notebook as we go. So they're in your book for you, but you're going to want them in your notebook. Remember, you can use your notebook on the test. All right, example number 1, starting with customary units of length. The sidewalk in front of a store is 4.5 feet wide. The city regulations establish a maximum width for sidewalks of 66 inches. Does the sidewalk meet the city regulations? So the first thing we need to do is figure out what is our conversion rate that we need to use. If I look at my question here, I see that I'm looking at one measurement that's in feet and another measurement that's in inches. So I want to find my conversion rate of feet and inches. If I look, that's right here. 1 foot is 12 inches. So now that I know what conversion rate I'm using, I can set it up and use it to solve the problem. If I take my conversion rate, we're going to write it as a fraction, so 12 inches to 1 foot. The nice thing about rates is because it's showing a relationship between two things, you could write it either way. So you also could have written 1 foot on top and 12 inches on the bottom, as long as you are matching up the same measure on the other side. So make sure again that you are labeling your units. That will help you. If we set up our 12 inches to 1 foot, I'm going to rewrite it so you can see what we're doing here. I'm going to set it up equal to a new fraction. I'm going to use what I know. I'm going to use my 4.5 feet, which is how wide the sidewalk is. I can do it either way. I can set up my boxes or do my crisscross. This one's pretty easy for our boxes since it's starting with a 1. So I know it's going to be times 4.5. If I do that on both, I end up with 54 inches. So it can't be more than 66 inches. 54 is less, so it does meet the requirements. All right, let's do a try it on the bottom of our page here. According to city regulations, how many feet wide is the maximum sidewalk width? All right, so now we're going to use that same unit of measurement. We want our inches to feet. We're using our same rate. 12 inches is 1 foot. I know that the regulation is 66 inches. So we're going to use that this time, putting our 66 inches on top to try to figure out how many feet that is. This will be a good one to use our crisscross method with. If I do that, I'm going to crisscross. I take 1 times 66 since they're connected, and then I'm going to take that 66 divided by 12. Remember, you can use calculators if you need to. I'm going to quick do it here. So 66 divided by 12. I know 12 times 5 is 60. And I'm going to need a decimal point here. Bring down my 0. There we go. So now I know it would be 5.5 feet. Let's take a short brain break for some more of those awesome memes you made. And we are back for example number 2. Now we are converting units of capacity. Capacity is how much there is of something. Usually we call it volume. So let's take a look. Jonah has 15 gallons of water for a camping trip. How many quarts of water does he have? So again, we're thinking of what is our conversion rate that we need. If I look, we have gallons and we have quarts. So I'm going to go over here and find gallons and quarts. Here we go. 1 gallon is 4 quarts. Now I know what my conversion rate is. Again, you can write it either way as long as you're matching the same label on the other side. So when we set up our 4 quarts to 1 gallon, set it up equal to the 15 gallons, we can find out how many quarts it is. So again, we can use either the crisscross or the equivalent fraction multiplying or dividing. In this case, since we're starting with a 1 and going across, we can just do times 15. If I did times 15 on the bottom, I'm doing times 15 on the top. 4 times 15 is 60. So now we know that 60 quarts would be the same as 15 gallons. All right, try it. Brandon is making banana bread. His recipe says to use 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. How many teaspoons of sugar should he use? So here I need to find my conversion rate of tablespoons and teaspoons. If I look up here, I see 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So I'm going to write 1 tablespoon to 3 teaspoons. All right, you can use the abbreviation that's up here. Otherwise, oftentimes people will use a capital T for tablespoons since they're bigger, and a lowercase t for teaspoons since they're smaller. All right, once I have that set up, I'm looking at what else I know. I know we're trying to figure out 2.5 tablespoons. So I want to make sure I'm matching up tablespoons for 2.5. All right, and then again, we can do multiplying across or crisscross. We'll just do multiplying across since it's an easy one here. I know 1 times 2.5 is going to get me to 2.5. So now I'm figuring out what is 3 times 2.5. I know 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 1/2 would be 1.5. So that gives me 7.5 teaspoons. So now I know he would need 7.5 teaspoons of sugar if he needed 2.5 tablespoons. All right, one more brain break. Let's look at some more memes. Example number 3, here we go. Now we are doing more conversions, this time with units of weight. So units of weight. The alpine pika is a small mammal in the rabbit family. How much does the alpine pika weigh in pounds? So if we look at our scale here, it gives us the weight 10 ounces. I want to find it in pounds, so I need to find ounces and pounds, which is here. I see that 1 pound is 16 ounces. So if I set up my 16 ounces to 1 pound, setting it across to what I know that it's 10 ounces. All right, I'm going to use our crisscross for this one so we can see an example of it being used. Oops. So I have my 16 ounces to 1 pound. I know it's 10 ounces. Let's do our crisscross here. So I have 1 times 10 is 10. So I'm doing 10 divided by 16. All right, that one we can do on a calculator if you want to. So if we do 10 divided by 16, I know that it's 625 thousandths. So they are very light creatures. Just a little over half of a pound, 625 thousandths of a pound. Let's try it with a much larger, heavier animal. Here we have an elephant. We want to know how many pounds does this elephant weigh. So we see Stella weighs approximately 3 3/10 tons. We want to know her weight in pounds. I need my conversion rate of pounds and tons. Let's get it set up. I have 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. The other number I know is her weight in tons, so I'm going to match up my 3 3/10 tons I know if I'm multiplying across, I have to multiply by 3 3/10. If I take my 2,000 times 3 3/10, I'm going to end up with 6,600 pounds. Whew! Wouldn't want one of those stepping on your toes. 6,600 pounds is the same as 3 3/10 of a ton. All right, same thing as before. If you have questions, make sure you are asking for help. And I'll have your work on the next screen for you, getting started quickly and quietly.